Hey, in this video, I'm going to teach you the 3 steps to become a client magnet. I'm going to give you 3 things you can immediately implement, and I'm also going to teach you how to increase your value, both perceived and real, by doing one thing. We are talking about clients, more clients. That's one of the things that so many people are asking about. I would say the majority of the questions that come from coaches, people who are already coaching or people who want to be coaching, is how do I get clients? And of course that makes sense because that's the essence of building a business, right? So this is about shifting from becoming a client predator is the only word that's coming to mind. Becoming a client predator and turning that into a client magnet. And that's a pretty substantial and significant shift. So when we get into anything related to sales, and please don't try to pretend, please don't try to convince yourself that you're not in sales when you're offering something that other people need to pay for. A lot of people try to dodge the truth that you're in sales because we don't like the idea of being salesy. We don't want to be a used car salesman, or we don't want to be, a timeshare salesperson or any kind of snake oil salesperson or whatever that connotation means. And so a lot of times we just then affirm that we're not in sales. And the next time something is exchanged for money, and that's not called sales, will be the first time. I don't know what else that's called. So I would rather you lean into the idea that you are in sales, but you don't have to be in sales like a salesperson. You can be in the sales conversation with a different energy than what most people are afraid of. And most people are afraid of that because they had a poor conversation with somebody else. They felt like they got taken advantage of, or they felt pressured or whatever. And so then we connect the feeling of pressure to the act of sales. And then we don't want to do anything that makes us feel like a mean person or a bad person or a pushy person or anything like that. But we're in sales. We're asking for money. So I'd rather you lean in and then clean up whatever relationship you've got to clean up to the idea of, and specifically the word, sales. Anytime we're talking about sales, what we should be focused on is value. Sales is just nothing more than a value exchange. That's really what it is. I have something of value. You have something of value. Let's switch. If my thing of value is a product or a coaching package or anything of that sort that's going to help you in your life, and your thing of value is money, then you'll pay me the money as long as you believe it's an either equal exchange or you're getting a good deal. You're getting the better bargain, meaning that you value the money less than what you're wanting from whatever the product or service is that I'm offering you. If you don't value what I have to trade you more than what you have to trade me, then you won't enter into the exchange. You shouldn't enter into the exchange because you're giving something that's more valuable. And so if we understand that sales is just simply a value exchange, now we can dive into value and the perception of value. And there's several different angles to look at. The perception, my perception of my value, my perception of your value, or whatever the thing is that you have, namely money, if I'm the coach, and your perception of money and your perception of my value, and what coaching even means and what money even means and all that stuff, right? So we really need to isolate the perception of value. That's the critical component. Now, I'm going to reveal the end here real quick, and then I'm going to dive into it. The way to increase value is to be better. It's just that. It's that simple. The way to increase value is to be better. If you have something that somebody doesn't value more than what they have to offer it. So let's say Somebody has $100. You have something that they don't think is worth the $100, and they are your seeker. They're the ones that you really want to serve. Instead of trying to learn sales tactics and marketing funnels that are going to decrease their perception of their value, I want you to just massively overpower that level of whatever they're holding on to with more value. Because then at a certain point, it becomes a no-brainer, right? People that don't have $100 for coaching would find $10,000 for a house. If the price of a house was 10 grand, it's amazing how quickly people could find the money. Why? Because the value is so much greater, the perception of value. So the $100 that didn't exist when the value was low magically appears when the value is much, much higher. So this is really about just becoming more valuable, understanding what people are looking for, and then becoming more valuable so that your perception of value increases and their perception of value increases. Now, inside of this conversation of becoming more valuable, you got to be a good coach. You got to really focus on your skills and just get better and better and better with practice and understanding all the things that it takes to be a good coach. The mindset shift that coaches need to make. And by the way, this is not coming from my philosophy. This is coming from 15 plus years of being in this business. This is noticing when my business was making hundreds of thousands of dollars and when it tanked and when we filed bankruptcy and then what brought it back up and millions of dollars over the course of 15 plus years. This is reporting to you what I've seen, what I've had to do, and what I've seen people have to do. There is no philosophical theory involved in what I'm about to share with you. The shift that most coaches need to make is from demanding value to commanding value. From demanding value to commanding value. By the way, if there's anything that's said in this video or any of the videos that really lands for you, type it in. Type it in as a comment because we want to know the stuff that really lands, and it's helpful for your brain to go, oh, that's really powerful. Maybe that's something that I need to focus on. So from demanding value to commanding value. Demanding value is essentially when we are just wanting whatever it is that we're trying to work. We're trying to pull that value down, like I was just showing the different value levels. We're trying to pull the value down. We're trying to overpower. We're trying to manipulate. We're trying to get good at sales skills. See, a lot of people in the coaching industry, this might be a soapbox. A lot of people in the coaching industry I'm talking about buyers in the coaching industry, they buy the sales pitch. They don't even really buy the product that's being pitched. They buy the sales pitch. They buy because people are really good at creating urgency and creating fake scarcity and creating the fear of missing out. I'm sure if you're like me, you've bought something and didn't really fully know what you bought. When you don't know what you actually bought, that means you bought the pitch. You bought the sale. You didn't buy the product, you bought the sale. And a lot of people are buying sales. So if you're going to play that game and succeed as a coach, then you have to get really good at sales, which hardly anybody wants to do. There's very, very few people that want to be coaches because they want to make a difference on the planet that identify with wanting to be a good salesperson. I only know a few, but they have just mostly learned to like sales or learn to love sales because of what happens in the process of people changing their lives. I don't know very many people that, when you ask them what they wanted to be when they were in 7th grade, said, I want to be a salesperson. Like, who wants to be a salesperson when they're little kids? Like very rarely. Maybe you saw mom or dad be salesperson or whatever, and you wanted to follow them. But the idea of being really good at sales is incredibly resistant. It's a resistance trigger to most people. So the good news is you don't have to increase your sales skills. You can increase your value. So rather than demanding value from somebody else, raise your value, and that will command value from somebody else, or the exchange that I was talking about, that will command value. So essentially what that means is when you become more valuable, this is where the perception comes into play. When you become more valuable, you become more valued. People value what's valuable in their perception, right? So if we focus on raising our value, then we will actually get valued. And in this context, we're talking about people paying you. You will be valued when people pay you for the thing that you're offering that they perceive as valuable. Now, probably most coaches that are struggling, I'll say most coaches that are struggling, one of the biggest reasons they're struggling is because they value strategy over value. They value strategy thinking that if I have the right funnel, if I have the right sales skills, if I have the right website, if I have the right thing, then I can overcome the lack of perception of value. I can overcome the fact that I don't really value the thing that I'm selling, and I'm not sure that anybody else is going to value it. But if I can overcompensate with sales strategy or business strategy or marketing strategy, then I can succeed. And I've just never seen that work. If you want to sell like a commodity, or if you're just wanting to sell information, that's fine. But I'm not your guy if that's what you want to do, because I'm just going to irritate you. What I get excited about is making a difference, making an impact, actually having people who change their lives. So if you want to have that kind of an impact, you have to be in your business. You can't have any sense of fulfillment if you are not in your business. You can have a sense of satisfaction, maybe. I mean, you think about it like, if you owned a McDonald's franchise, I don't know that you feel fulfilled in what happens inside that business because you're not in the business. It spits out money, and maybe you can do things with the money that makes you fulfilled. But if you want to be a coach, like, you got to be in there. And way too many people value strategy more than their own distinction. And what's so interesting about this is that what causes us usually to resist, like the thing that we usually resist, is the thing that usually is most valuable. It's just almost always the way it goes. The most real value, but also the most perceived value, is generally the thing that we miss, that we dismiss, that we resist, that we just don't want to do. So that's why so much of this game is about diving into what you resist, diving into the thing that you probably don't want to do. But the fact that there's resistance means at a deeper level, you probably need to do that. Like, that's just what creates the internal conflict. So when we're starting this journey, especially as a coach, we ask a lot of these strategy-based questions because we think those are the most important ones. And it's not that those are unimportant. They're just not the most important. Strategy is the icing on the cake. The foundation is the cake, right? So I don't want to dismiss the importance of strategy. There is importance, but it's just not the most important thing. And when we're focused on strategy and we're focused more on the icing, then unconsciously we're basically dismissing the foundations. We're dismissing this value conversation. So let me break down value in a business context. I'm not going to go super deep into this just for the sake of time on this video. But in a business context, you basically have 3 stages. And I already mentioned 2 of them. The first stage is valuable. This is where you get really good. If you want to be a transformational coach, you need to study transformation and you need to experience transformation. You need to do and feel what you're wanting to teach other people how to do and feel. Essentially, teach what has changed your life like your life depended on it. And if it hasn't changed your life, why are you teaching it? Assuming that you want to change lives with your coaching. So if you want to change lives with your coaching, but the thing that you're teaching hasn't changed your life, then you're just not going to have the conviction. And I'm not saying this, I'm saying this, like, I'm not saying it to be a buzzkill. I'm saying it because that's actually the answer, right? I'm saying it because there's hope. And that's what so many people will buy. They'll buy our conviction in what we're teaching. And when something really, truly has changed our life, our conviction has the ability to overpower our resistance. Our conviction has the ability to overpower the conflict. Because no matter how hard it gets, we have to do this because people need to know what this feels like. I'll dive into that in other videos and talk about the piano bench moment and some of that stuff that some of you've heard. But I just think there's a lot of people that are wanting to coach that actually haven't had their lives change through coaching or haven't had their lives change with whatever it is they're teaching. So you got to be valuable, like get in there and actually increase your value and practice and do whatever you've got to do to increase your value. And then the second thing is to get visible. Most people are actually terrified of being visible, but yet they want to know how to market. Market is the act of getting visible. Marketing is the act of getting visible. So most people are trying to learn how to be visible while they're scared of being visible at the same time. And the reason most people are scared of being visible is because they don't feel themselves as valuable. So that's why stage one is to get really valuable. I don't know anybody who is extremely comfortable being visible. And I don't know anybody who started out as really comfortable being visible. I don't know how many thousands of videos I've done, and I'm not super comfortable. I've just learned to live with it because I got to do it. I got to get out there. I got to get my message out there. Like, you know, people need to feel that piano bench moment. So visibility is something that a lot of people will resist, and they don't understand that they have a fear of visibility, but they're trying to learn how to be visible first or simultaneously. And that's where so much of the conflict is. After you get valuable and then you learn how to get visible based on your value, then you get valued. That means you get paid. Then people will feel that conviction and they have to see you, and they have to see you with some consistency. If they don't see you with some consistency, then they probably won't trust and they won't be able to feel the ongoing value. So those are the three stages that are really critical to understand. So the first ingredient, I'm going to name it here. We've been talking about it, kind of alluding to it, but the first ingredient in changing the value perception here is that you've got to give people something new. You've got to give people something new. There's no such thing as having a new, familiar life. There's no such thing. It cannot be new and familiar. It can't. You play with that word new, right? New spelled K-N-E-W. That's what you knew to get here. Where you're going to have to drop that K if you want something new out there. But this is probably the fundamental human wrestling match. Is I don't want anything that's unfamiliar to me because of all kinds of primal reasons that we'll get into at a different time. The perpetual wrestling match for humans is I want something different, but I just don't want it to be uncomfortable. But if you want to help people change their lives, they have to explore new. They have to explore new. And you as a coach have to facilitate that. So we're looking for new philosophy for the client. We're looking for a new philosophy. We're looking for a new physiology in their bodies. Sometimes their bodies calm down. Sometimes their bodies get activated. We're looking for a new possibility of what's potentially out there. We're looking for a new pathway. right? What to do, or maybe a neural pathway inside. We're looking for a new plan. We're looking for a new purpose. We're looking for a new passion. So those are 7 P's that we're looking for new for the client: philosophy, physiology, possibility, pathway, plan, purpose, passion. We're helping them explore something new. If there's not anything new, then there isn't any hope. Hope requires new, and new requires discomfort. It's just the way it goes. And since the clients are clinging to familiarity and clinging to comfort a lot of the times, we need to bring that "I got you" kind of energy to the exploratory feeling of coaching. From a coaching standpoint, we're seeking that experience of new for the client, which means we got to take our flashlight out. We got to have our backpack packed. We got to have our map out, or let the map go. And we just need to explore. We got to look outside of the boundaries. Anything that's inside the boundaries of what the client already knows and is familiar with is not the answer. We got to get outside of whatever those boundaries are. And most of the time, we need to bring that mindset and experience and conviction and advocacy as the coach. So I want you to get used to new. Now, that doesn't mean get comfortable with new, because there's no such thing. But we can value discomfort. I've been doing this work 15 plus years. Transformation is still not comfortable for me. It cannot be comfortable. There's no such thing as comfortable transformation. But when I can recognize that I'm going through a transformation of some kind, of my identity, or a business transformation, or personal transformation, it has never once, ever once, not once, ever been enjoyable or comfortable. Never, not a single time. There is no such thing as familiar new. I can't harp on that enough. There is no such thing as familiar new. Those are complete opposites of each other. Those are diametrically opposed to each other. You're either familiar or you're new. You cannot be new and familiar. So if the client, and sometimes the client is you, if the human is clinging to familiar, well, then they can't have new. It's not possible. So we have to understand that the process of transformation requires the thing that our brains are clinging on to because we're afraid of who we might be without it, or we're afraid of what might happen to us without this thing called familiar. We just have to know that's what the client is doing, because the client is human, and that's what the human brain does. The human brain digs its claws into familiar because the human brain values what it knows more than what it doesn't. And the reason is because we want to stay alive. And I know what's in my past, and if I can see exactly what's in my future, then I can prepare. I can put the armor on if I need armor. I can grab a weapon if I'm going to need a weapon. I can bring the umbrella if it's going to rain. I can be prepared for all the perceived danger. This is the way the brain operates. So we just have to understand that as coaches, we've got to bring the exploration of new and understand that if the client responds with irritation, or if the client seems to just grab onto familiar, that's part of the process. That's actually a sign that this is working. That's actually a sign that we're moving towards something new if the client is resisting letting go of something old. So what does this actually look like? I want to give you 3 things here that you can actually implement. The first one is questions. As a coach, you've got to value questions over answers. As a really powerful coach, you are a questioning machine more than an answering machine. The best coaches don't have the best answers. They have the best questions, because the client has the answers. And curious questions are the ones that take us into the unknown. So when you're asking curious questions and you feel the cling to familiarity show up, you feel the resistance to the new show up, that's time to lean in as the coach. That's time to maybe let the client know, this is cool, this is great. Actually, we're moving beyond your comfort zone. I know it's unfamiliar. I know it's uncomfortable. I get it. I know it, but there's a lot of value out there. So I'm here with you. And that has to happen through exploratory questions. And let me say this. If your clients are answering your questions immediately, your questions suck. If the client is answering the questions immediately, then the questions suck. Because the questions are doing nothing but regurgitating known answers. We want people to have to think about it. We want people to look up and look down and left and right and in and out and go, I don't know. Great. If you're in the space of I don't know, that means you've entered the unfamiliar, and all of the dreams and all the solutions are in the unfamiliar. So you can't get to the new NEW while connecting and protecting everything you knew. KNEW. You've got to let one of them go. And in your exploration, you're doing everything you can to understand their model of the world, to not make their model of the world wrong, to create trust, understand that they have the solution. And it's a lot easier to ask curious questions and pull the solutions out of a human brain than it is to try to take solutions and stuff them into a human brain that is protecting, that is clinging to familiarity. So that's the first thing. Ask a bunch of curious questions. And if clients get irritated with you, that's fantastic, because there's also no such thing as comfortable transformation. So if they're irritated, that means they're activated, which means stuff is moving, which means we have a chance to transform him. The second thing is to value care over conversions. Really give a damn about people. I want you to care about people more than their money. And if you care about somebody more than their money, you'll get more money, because people will recognize that, and your give a damn will actually turn into better coaching, and it'll turn into better connection, and it'll turn into better trust. And that means your value will increase, which means your perception of value will increase, which means people will pay, and people will actually pay more money. The more that you really truly care about the human on the other side of this conversation, rather than the conversions of what's in their wallet going into your bank account. And then the third thing is to be more convicted than constructed. Constructed is our intellect saying, this is how I want people to see me, and this is the positioning, and this is who I want to be, and this is who I want them to see me as, and this is the approval that I'm looking for. That's the construct of the ego. Your conviction will overpower your construction all the time, because people can feel conviction. They can only sense construction. They can only see construction or consume construction at an intellectual level. They can't feel it, but they can feel conviction. And if you're really doing your work and you're living a life of passion and joy and happiness and conviction, and that doesn't mean you're happy all the time. That doesn't mean you've got this positive mindset all the time. One of the big misconceptions in personal development is that a solid mindset equals positive all the time. Listen, if you're a human, you got some anger in there. If you're a human, you've got some grief in there. If you're a human, you've got some trauma in there. One of the worst things you can do is pretend you don't and not let the human emotions come out of you. So a healthy mindset doesn't necessarily mean a positive mindset all the time. A healthy mindset is whatever the human needs to express, especially when we're talking about emotions. Just express the emotions. So that's your conviction. And if you don't get angry about what you're trying to do when it doesn't work, or what you just have to get inside, you haven't gotten out yet. If you don't get angry about it, then I don't think you care enough. Honestly, I don't think you care enough. Just judging by 15 plus years. The amount of times that I've been angry, the amount of times that I've wanted to, it wasn't too long ago that I was joking, not joking, ready to burn this studio down. It wasn't that long ago. And it's in those moments of human emotion that actually causes us to touch our give a damn. It causes us to touch the thing that we'll fight for. And if we don't have something we'll fight for, then anything can knock us out. Now, if you like this video, check out that video right there. I'm going to teach you 10 implementable techniques to create more impact for your clients. We are always, as coaches, paying attention to whether the client has leverage or not. Now, the more rapport you're in with the client, the easier it is for you to ask questions